And we're live. So this is going to be the Stranger Things spoiler cast. We're going to get into that in a second. Got some news to get forward before that. But if you haven't seen Stranger Things, I don't recommend listening to this, podcast unless you don't care. Um, but just a quick news. There's been some news going on in the old gaming world. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Halo Infinite.
Not really.
Yeah. I played a little bit of it because it was, I had Game Pass and it was free to play. And I'm like, okay, I'll actually give Halo a shot this time. And so me and Drew just played some deathmatch. It's terribly unoptimized for PC, but they done fucked it up Halo Infinite again. So 343 has decided that this was the 10-year plan of we're gonna work on this game for 10 years, but they can't get the damn thing done. And so they're getting rid of split screen co-op again, because Halo 5 didn't have that shit either. It's one of those things. People were immediately pissed. And so now they've, I think it's like the co-head or whatever, she's gone. Medical or family reasons. No, she's fucking canned, is what it is. And I think they're getting like the head engineer, he's gone too. So Microsoft has to damn clean house for these 343 punks because they're fucking up the number one franchise.
Yeah.
They have to go and buy Call of Duty because Halo ain't doing it for them, man. But it's one of those sad things, but it's also one of those things. It's like, okay, these games of service, we're gonna have a 10-year damn window, whatever it is, and then you fucking takes you 5 years to get going, and by the time you get going, no one gives a shit. I hope that don't happen with Street Fighter 6. It better not fucking happen.
It seems like Street Fighter 6, they've at least got some. Well, I don't know. It's Capcom.
Yeah, yeah.
Never mind. It's Capcom. I won't even speculate. Capcom going to Capcom.
You'd think that people would catch on to this. It's like, maybe we shouldn't release half-done shit, but leave me alone, Brian. In the Diablo 2 news, you got the new season starts October 6th. I'm going to play this one. I think that Resurrected needs more balance changes than it has. They need to rewrite a lot of characters, which is it's going to piss off a lot of people. When I see any kind of change they make, you just get these oldies like, you can't change nothing. It's not how it's supposed to be. You're destroying the balance.
It's like, how dare you have Hammered So now we got a nerf to Hammered. It's like there's so much stuff, and they do tweak things, but there's so much of those. There's always those skills that are like useless. It's like what especially one like Thunderstorm used to be great, and it's like now you still see it a little bit with lightning swords because it's like a synergy now, but it's not like what it used to be.
Well, the way I took it, that was player versus player. Like you would cause automatic damage to the other person and would put a threat to them. But it's something that the game was never balanced ever, and now people have gotten so used to that. Probably all melee classes need to cleave. I played that in other mods where you just hit the 3 monsters in front or even more, because your melee classes is like, okay, so you're paladin, you going up, you max zeal, and you're gonna hit one guy 4 times, and hey, he's gonna die. But then while you're done that, fucking sorcerers cast one blizzard and kill like the whole damn screen.
Everything. The prime example was the maggot layer. I remember back in the day when we'd play with guys that would have like barbarians or paladins or whatever. They'd have a melee character, and they'd go into that, where the final maggot was that you get where the chest is.
Yeah.
For the staff, and they'd go in there and there'd be like 9 million maggots, and for every one that they killed, like 2 more would pop up. It's one of those. And I would walk in there with a freaking Javazon and throw one javelin, the whole room would clear out. And it's like, why am I bothering with this anymore?
Yeah.
You're just going to sit there and beat on those things for like 30, 40 minutes.
All of the old paladins, they aren't Hammerdins. They're just sorcerers and Hammerdins that didn't know it yet.
Yeah, they didn't know it. They just had to be turned into it.
It's just the conversion of it.
I had a Zelia back in the day, man. It sat there. It's like if you had one target, it was fine. But man, you go to a cow level, you're screwed. I mean, you could sit there and Zeal a lot until you would never die because you would constantly have your life leech and your damage reduction. But it's like you would just stand there in like a never-ending battle against just a herd of cows.
Well, the plan now is they're going to give you high level zones. These are called terror zones, and they scale to your level. What's been happening is the monsters were set, and so once you got, as your character got above 85, all the monsters would be stuck at 85 or 87,
Oh
and
yeah.
then you got essentially too damn strong. You got inkling experience, but you just also annihilated everything. Um, but it also led to this thing where, okay, well, once you learned that the only certain monsters drop certain treasures based by treasure class, it leads you to the Mephisto. That's on top of Mephisto giving a lot of drops per down run, compared to just carrying your average champion or whatever. But it just leads to like Andariel, Mephisto, and Chaos Sanctuary, Cows, and then exit the game and start it over again. Maybe if
Yeah.
you're a search, or if you have a special character, you'll do what was the damn the Act 2 area that you go underneath the ground. Um,
Um, I'm going blank on it.
are
It was one.
ancient tunnels. It might
It
be
was
ancient.
ancient tunnel. It was like kind of like in Act One. It was
The
the
pit.
cave,
It
that
was
one cave.
yeah.
Um, and depending on because I remember like for a while on like it might have been 1.10, you could go in there with like a strafe zone and clear that out really fast. Um, and that was one of the best places to go to find like I mean like a wind force could drop in there
It
where like
could, but it
yeah
didn't mean it would.
it didn't mean it would, but it could.
Yeah.
Whereas like Pendle, everybody would run Pendle because he could drop a wind force, and you could run him in literally like less than 10 seconds.
Yeah, and then exit the game and do it again.
Yep.
And sort of just kind of just repeat run thing that's the core of what you call end game, and so they're trying to fix that. I'm all cool for the terror zones. What I think really got people upset was these Sunder charms. They're supposed to be 6 charms, one for each element, and it's going to drop the immunity on the monster. And people were just bitching and moaning about that. It's like, well, now it's just going to lead to single element sorceress is just going to win again and shit like that. Well, you've already had pretty much single element paladin or single element freaking necromancer.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's like one of those things. The thing about it is like back in what was the patch that Cold Mastery actually got rid of cold immune? It was a bug. You remember in one of them? You might have stopped playing by then, but there was one of them where it's like if you got Cold Mastery up to like so many points, it basically like broke cold immune, and it would just sit there and just it would break right through it.
Yeah. Well, the way it happens is if they got immunity, you needed a special ability or a special something that would go. I think conviction, and amp damage would be the. There might be another curse that does that for like an element curse. I don't remember what the fuck the element curse was, but so once you broke it, they would still have like 95% reduction, but stuff
Yeah,
like
they're still a pain to kill,
yeah.
but you could actually. It wasn't like one of those like I'm a lightning Javazon and I can't freaking kill the Cow King because he's lightning immune no matter what I do. Of course, then people just went and did their merc stuff. You just let your merc take care of those. So it's not like you're completely out of being able to do anything.
You needed that infinity, and it's still probably one of the best items in the game. After maybe the Enigma, the infinity, you put that on your merc. He has conviction on him, even though he sucks. He has the damn thing, and all the monsters are going to drop down resistance, and it's just a huge down buff for any kind of element character, mainly sorceress. So sorceress' main goal was to get that infinity, which was what was it like a burr jaw burr or something like that?
I think so. I mean, even if
thing.
you didn't have that, you could just throw an insight on them, and throw like a fortitude armor, which was a lot cheaper. I think you only needed like to make fortitude. The only high ruin you needed was like low, which was like 200% enhanced damage. So if you came across something, they could pretty much take it out unless you got into something really weird where it's like stone skin, physical immune, lightning enchanted. You know how you used to find some of those every once in a while where it have like 3 things on it and you'd be like, that's a death trap.
Yeah, I would normally run like a sorceress, fire, and ice, and you'd run into pretty good a bit of monsters who are immune to both, but the merc would then just, he would...
You just do whatever you couldn't do.
Yeah. And, but these immunity things are obnoxious. I don't think they should ever exist in a game like that again. Or if it's immune to one type of thing.
Yeah,
like
just
the way
one.
The original Diablo 2 had some stuff like that. But it's one of those things like, okay, you split all of your points or whatever into physical attack and you run into the physical immune monster. It's one of those like punch you in the face like Hell Act 1 moments. He's like, what the hell? What do you mean I
Yep.
need Berserk? What the fuck's Berserk? It's like, that thing sucked. It's like, no, you need that shit.
Yeah, you need that 1 point skill. It's like back in '09, I think with the Zon in '09, there was like a 1 point in fire arrow would take out anything that was like it was like kind of bugged where it's like if you came across a physical immune, that fire arrow would pretty much take care of it.
Yeah.
You could just shoot a couple of them out and it'd be like gone. But it's kind of like that Fire Claw Druid. I don't know if you remember when I made that thing way back in the day. I think you were still playing then. But it was the Druid that turned into the bear. So he had Fire Claws that were maxed out. And I gave him a phase blade that had like 5 shells in it, so he was like super super fast. Because all the damage came from the Fire Claws.
Yeah.
And then you put one of those Death Ruins in it because that was back in '09 when it was bugged and it would ignore target's defense completely, so every hit would hit. And he could literally walk up to like Diablo and kill him in like an eighth of a second because he would attack like 14 times a second. Basically, it was like turbo mode, like da-da-da-da-da-da. And then he would go to like Act 1 Hell, and he couldn't beat the Den of Evil because they're fire immune, so he was completely useless past that.
Yeah. They added it in there to force people to do different skills, not just have one fucking skill. Way back in the day. But that was before there's been, decades of action RPGs that have gotten this shit sorted out right. And what it did is it just locked you into a new thing. Now you weren't one. Before it was, you had just frozen orb sorceress who would just static electricity and then finish with a frozen orb. But it became now the frozen orb sorceress who would have another element kind of thing. But I'm hoping that these charms are going to be relatively easy to get. I don't want to have to sit there and trade for one. I'm definitely not going to build my character as
around one.
Yeah, because I don't know what the hell how hard they'll get. I'm suspecting they'll be hard to get.
Well, it's one of those things. There'll be, was it 5 of them or 6?
There's 6 because you
so,
got.
I mean, it's one of those like I'm sure it'll be like torches. It'll be like I've got such and such. I need the obvious ones will be like the lightning ones will probably be expensive because people will still be running fire and ice. Physical ones probably won't be that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like those the skill charms.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this one's for curses. Who gives a crap? Or this is an elemental druid, which I think those are actually a little bit more useful now. Or like and it'd be like the martial arts tree or something. You always want to trap one for for assassins. You know what I'm saying? It's like certain ones would be virtually useless, and some of them would actually be really sought after. So I imagine it would be like that again.
Yep. I just plan to get some, it's a distraction before Diablo 4 comes out. I would love for Path of Exile 2 to be out right now, but I'm not sure. Hell, Diablo 4 might hit before that.
Before that.
Yeah. But eventually play both of them. And I never really played all that much Path of Exile. I've got maybe like 40 hours into it. Before it even had, I think back when it only had 3 zones. I think there's 10 now, if I'm not mistaken. So other news. Sony and Microsoft are still fighting each other, sir, over the lawsuits.
They're really only fighting about one thing.
Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty.
See, so Sony wants a commitment, even though Microsoft has said very explicitly that or at least the plan is, to have everything on everything. You could play it on whatever the hell platform you want to play. If you want to play fucking Call of Duty from your cloud on your phone, it probably runs like shit. I'm sure you can. But Sony wanted a bigger commitment of, don't take this away from us. And I think that Microsoft promised them 3 years, and they won't do any more than that. The real story is just put Microsoft shit on PlayStation and just be done with it.
Open up Game Pass to freaking Sony. And I'm sure that's probably what they're thinking. Is like, hey, put Game Pass on your console, and or you don't get none. And I'm sure that's what they're thinking. Because, they had the 3-year deal, which is basically, existing contracts. But I can't imagine Microsoft being like, we want to only solely sell Call of Duty. It's one of those, that's a big chunk of pie if they don't have it on other consoles. But it seems like it's gonna be a Game Pass thing. It's like we want to be the new Netflix of games basically, and it's like own computer, own Xbox, own PlayStation. If it'll run it, it'll play it.
Yeah. I still think. I think they say in June, 2023. It's going to happen. Just going to wait patiently. They'll make sure Diablo 4 is out first, and that we'll have to buy it. It won't be on Game Pass. There's some Game Pass. You just gotta, before you buy something, you need to check Game Pass to see if it's already there. It's just one of those things. Just check it because you might
They're
already
constantly
have it.
updating it.
Yeah. I don't give a fuck about Death Stranding, but that's gonna be on there. In October, there's a game called Scorn. It has this like cool like alien Geiger type metal bioengineered shit graphics. I'm interested in playing it. It looked cool. It might be shit. That's already going to be on there. I want to say there's going to be one of those boomer shooters called Proteus coming out maybe tomorrow. I just heard some guy say that on the internet. I don't fucking know. And tomorrow, this video is going up on September 22nd. But it's one of those things you just got to check, man. And so there was a new game I got just recently called Solstice. That's actually what I'm playing on the screen right now. And I had to go make sure that they didn't give it to me because I don't want to sit there, drop $40, and Microsoft, hey, man, why'd you do that?
He's like, why'd you do that? It's right here.
Why'd you fucking do that? That happens all the time. It's already happened to me like multiple times. But you just gotta be patient on this stuff, and then all of that. Of course, Starfield will be on there, but all of that Call of Duty shit, Activision shit, freaking World of Warcraft, it's all gonna be on Game Pass.
Oh yeah, because they're it's one of those. As consoles have become more and more like computers, it's basically like it's gonna be Game Pass.
Yeah,
just make your way around to it.
Speaking of computers, sir. I don't know how much of that NVIDIA press conference you heard about.
The one about their new $1,600 video card?
Yeah. It ain't that's the one I want. It ain't the $1,600.
Of course it is.
It ain't the $1,600. Although that's retarded. You just gotta say straight out that if you're going to buy the biggest dickest, that they're gonna gouge your ass.
They'll give it to you. But it's like that's really the whole. That's like you look at, and then the 480 is right below it, and it's like it's $900.
So there's more than that. Let's go back to the $1,600 first, and we'll break it down. So the 4090 is $1,600. That's their reference Founders Edition. Of course, I want a Strix, so I'm looking probably about $1,850 before tax. So probably about after tax. It's provided I can get one, because these things are still going to sell the fuck out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking it's $2,000 after tax to get the Strix. And it looks like a big fucking huge block thing. I've already looked at the back. It's got the 2.1 HDMIs, because I need two of them. Because of course I got to have fucking damn two TVs instead of two monitors. But compared to the 3090 from 2 years ago, which was about like maybe a 10% at most upgrade over the 3080, but cost nearly double. The 3080, remember the 3080 retail was $650.
Yeah.
While the retail for 3090 was $1,500. So you're looking at a 10% increase in 12. No, you had 24 gigs of RAM, whatever the fuck you're gonna use that for. No one's it's not gonna be used. It was there because it fit in, and we would charge $50.
Yeah, it's like because we could. That's really it, because we could.
So yep. And so you're looking at 10%. And in most people, if you're going to go biggest dickus, you're not going to get the damn Founders Edition 3090. You're going to get the For the Win EVGA card. So you're looking at $1,800 probably for that damn thing. Probably $1,900 for a Strix if you're going to go true biggest dickus. But there was provided if you actually got one, there was like a whole year where you were the top fucking key. You were top spec. There wasn't no like, 4 months later we were just going to do a damn 3090 Ti. That took a while for them to come out with that. Of course, they wanted $2,000 fucking dollars for that shit. I've seen them for under $1,000 now, by the way.
What's funny is like how many computers do you think those went in? They're like bottle capped by like the processor or the RAM of just being like, I've got this card.
Yeah. If you were doing 1080p, you were almost certainly bottlenecked unless you had. Of course, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you buying a 3090 for 1080p?
Yeah.
Like when you get to 4K, your bottleneck will go back to being the video card, usually per the processor. But okay, so $1,600 for this 4090, which is out in a couple weeks. Now here's where the trick comes. This is where they're throwing you for the loop. The actual 4080 is $1,200. It's a 16 gigabyte card. The $900 you're talking about is a 4070 that they're calling a 480.
The 480.
Yeah, it is 12 gigabytes. And you can tell it's a 4070 because it has half of the the CUDA cores that the 4090 has, and that's the same way it's happened in the 3000 series. Is that 70 series card is about half, turbo spec for the high level the 90 card, and so that's what the 4080 is. It isn't. It's a fucking 4070. You just call it a 4070. But have they come out and say, "Oh, well, here's our 4070"? Remember when you used to pay $500 for the 3070 2 years ago? Well, we don't $900 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, that they do not have a Founders Edition for the 4080 12 gigabyte. So it is only going to be the board partner. So it is not a $900 is what the Founder Edition would have cost if that thing existed. So this thing's $1,000.
It's gonna be $1,000. And when you're thinking $1,000, you might as well just go ahead and get what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course the outrage is immediate because people see right through that shit. They see the increase of, the 3080 Founders was 650. Now they want 12. So you're looking at practically double, almost double for the 4070. And it's one of those things where people are like, what the fuck? And there's only $100 more for the for the 3090. Wouldn't if you was to double that at two, it should be $3,000, right?
Oh yeah.
which the 3090s were being sold for during the pandemic, but so people are pissed, and they're like, I'm going to go to AMD. Well, you know what? Fucking put your money where your mouth is. If you're going to go AMD, go do it. I'll tell you one thing, that damn 7900 XT is going to be $1,000 to start with. It's going to be.
And they're shitty ass drivers.
Yeah, the drivers is the problem.
It's always been their Achilles heel, and it's like I thought eventually that would get straightened out, but no, it's still the same.
Yeah,
always been the drivers.
Drastically superior to that goofy shit Intel was putting out, but Intel just basically came out and face planted immediately. Their spec, they say the cards are built for DirectX 12 games. That isn't mostly what I play. I mainly play games that are 3 or 4 years older. At least Steam tells me that. And so I want my DirectX 9 games to fucking work. And, they just don't work on them Intel shit at all. This ARC crap. And so there's rumors on the street that ARC's already dead.
I'm sure.
They've already killed it off. But... Well, whatever. If people are going to be pissed, then go buy AMD. They already bought AMD processors. They've Intel fucking processors are just fucking abandoned.
Yeah, I mean it's like when they came out with those new AMD ones, it was like, oh, holy crap, they really blew them away. I like the the wattage recommended too. Did you see that?
Yeah,
for the 4090.
Yeah, 450 is what it uses. So the effective is you got to still counter in for all of the rest of your card. Right now, I got one of them stupid damn power supplies. You can see the wattage on. Just playing this video, it's at 300 watts.
Yeah.
You're gonna need like 1,000.
It's like they recommend like at least an 850.
Yeah.
And that's with a Ryzen processor. So with an Intel, it's like you probably the Ryzen probably takes a little bit more power.
I would say don't even get the 850. Just fucking.
No, why even bother? Just go ahead and get 1,000.
It's like why are you going to try to cheap out on your fucking power supply unit when you're paying $1,600 for
fucking video card?
It's like I've got to cheap out on everything else. It's like really, it's just going to set your computer on fire.
Yeah. I learned a long time ago you do not cheap out on power supplies no matter what they're going into, because I've replaced so many knockoff power supplies back when I used to build computers. It was unreal.
Yeah.
It's like if people would be like, I can get this on Newegg, and it's like if it ain't a brand you ever heard of, don't even bother. Don't even bother.
Hell, I just built a computer for a guy literally 2 weeks ago, and the power supply was used. Did not fucking work. It kind of sort of worked, but it did not actually work, and that was confusing the fuck out of me. While I
Oh
would,
yeah, because they'll randomly crash, and it's not like I mean even like I've got my old power supply tester where you plug it in and it would be like, oh, it's everything's showing fine and it works. But the problem is that just tests all the ports on the power supply. It don't test it once there's a strain on it. You know,
yeah,
so it's like you don't know how it's going to react once you put a strain on it.
yeah. But well, I'm still trying to get one. I ain't gonna freaking go spend scalper money or any of that kind of shit. I still want to try. If you don't get it that day one though, if I don't get the 4090 the day one and it comes out, you just might as well fucking wait till next year. Um, but I want a Strix. I'll settle for a Gigabyte because Gigabyte has the extra HDMI ports, but I really want a Strix. For me, it's the 4K. If you're not in a 4K system right now, then don't do it.
Yeah, I'm about to say it's a waste of time anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
When you first look at it, when you first look at 4K, you're like, I can't tell no fucking difference. It's only after you've been on it for a while and then you go back to 1080p, you're like, wow, okay. So
well, it's like back in the day when you would go, like, you could easily tell the difference between 480 and 720, but 720 and 1080, you would be like, it's not as noticeable, but the more you played in 1080, and you tried to go back down, you would be like, that's a massive difference.
Yeah. And that's what 1080 looks to me now. It looks like, ugh. I remember I put in Guilty Gear Strive, which I haven't played in a year. Last time I played it, I was playing 1080p max, and I thought it was the best games I ever saw. And it pops up, it'll say 1080, and I'm like, ooh, this is like shit.
It's got Vaseline all over the screen, man.
It's all scruffy, man. Might as well be PS2. Yeah, but the price for 4K means 4 times the price. It's $4,000 to get in it. Is what it means. And now I've got an OLED, and now I'm seeing the difference between the OLED and the LCD, and I ain't gonna go back to that either. It's like, oh shit, I done fucked myself over. But first world problems, man. But EVGA is out. They have said, fuck you, Nvidia. And that is probably the only company that people have a good opinion of.
Following.
Yeah. Mainly because of their customer service, their upgrade program, the fact that they did not dick people with inflated prices when the pandemic shit was raging on. Like the damn EVGAs would still show up mainly at retail. And I think they eventually ended up getting like $100 more, and that was probably like Micro Center throwing that damn freaking money on the top.
But it was also like that was the more common one that you would find in big box stores like Best Buy too.
Yeah.
If you ever noticed, it was almost always EVGA, as opposed to some of the other ones. And even back in the day, it seemed like they had a better place in big box stores. Like Staples, I think, carried them back in the day when you could buy video cards there and stuff. Of course, back then there wasn't that big of a difference between them, but you would go with the brands you liked.
Yeah, a lot of it's like, okay, I've had a couple of cards crap out on me. I couldn't even tell you which one it was. This has been over 15 years ago. But it would be like, okay, this is one of the most important parts of my PC. Spend the money, get the nice one. I usually get Asus Strix, and none of them have ever failed on me. So I've had a 970, a 1070, and now I've got a 3080 Strix. And so I'll stay with Asus. But EVGA's it's a fucking quality brand. People did not feel like they had good customer service. Didn't even have that many people. They only had 280 employees. I'm like, wow, I thought that would be a bit bigger company.
A massive company.
Yeah, but no, they're out because the margins, the actual profit margins on those cards aren't where it is, and you're like, what the fuck? What are they charging? What's Nvidia charging $1,200 for? They're probably charging $1,200 for 4080 because of them the architecture is that 4 damn nanos or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
TSMC. And they've already said they were going to go up 20% on all their stuff. So you got brand new architecture, freaking 4. You're going to run out of nanos, man. You're going to be down to 0.2 nanos or some shit like that. But they went in, they spec'd big because they're building these cards during the pandemic. They're like, well, everything costs $3,000. Let's make sure it actually is $3,000. and now they're stuck with too much inventory.
They got to eat it.
Yeah, too many freaking 3000 series cards. Their 4000 series are over spec for what people are willing to pay, and so they're just going to outrageously price that shit to get people to go to the store to buy the 3080 that's now just sitting on there, or probably a 3090 or a Ti. There's a bunch of Ti's out there,
which is still a great card.
Yeah, yeah. For a lot of people, I'm thinking they'll just drop $1,000 for that 3090 Ti and say fuck it, and then
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, because you got to think, it's like, I mean, there's gaming computers, but like the average gaming computers, like they're not going to go for that. I mean, you'll have your you have your group that will, but still, it's just, it's not as big of a market.
Yeah, it's the 3060 where it should be, but they want a ridiculous amount of money for those still right now. That should be like they should have been. I think they were supposed to be 329. That seems okay. That ain't what none of them I've ever seen go for.
No,
there's still 3060s out there with $500 price tag, and that's what damn 3080s are going for used right now. It's like you think, do you buy you a mining card that's been worked like ass, but it's only $500, or do you pay fucking $1,200 or $1,300 for Nvidia's 4000 series? Nvidia's they're pushing you to buy those cards. What they're doing.
Yeah, they want you to buy them.
Yeah.
And do you think with the cut down on like mining and stuff, like certain countries where they're like cutting back on it, do you think that's also slowed down the market for? Because I'm sure they knew, they were like, oh man, people are buying these things in quantities.
Nvidia's lied about how many people have been mining, and the amount of people who mine. They've continuously lied about it. They had to pay a fine. Everybody knew that Ethereum was going to go on proof of stake instead of proof of work. Work is where you're mining the shit. And Ethereum has been what's been running the damn market for several years. It has not been actual Bitcoin. It's been Ethereum. And so once that came down, they are really worried of what happened during the 1000 series, where all of a sudden you have 1080s and shit just flooding the dang used market, and they were going to try their best to try to get around it, but they had also needed to produce so many 3000 series. It's finally when they got caught up to the demand, they just kept cranking them shits out, but I mean, I really don't give a fuck. Right now, if you want a video card, you might have to pay a ridiculous amount unless you get it online, but you can finally get one. But if you're just doing,
I remember, what was it, about a year and a half ago, where you were going to Micro Center like crazy trying to find one?
Yeah, I was trying to go like once a week. I went 7 or 8 times, and then I actually got two successes the first time, and then actually honestly the last time I went up there I got the 3080. But you go up there and you're waiting in line, and that sucks ass. You're waiting for a couple hours before the store opens. But at the same time, you have an actual somewhat of a chance, while the person online, he's just fucked, man. Unless he's
just screwed.
Yeah, and the person in another country, they're just fucked. And I would hear people bitching like, man, I'll go get anything. So, well, really? Just go down here to Georgia. Fucking take your come on from Canada, go to Georgia, because there's 16900 XTs on the shelf all the time. Yep. They were like, I'm not paying for AMD. But I mean, you ain't getting shit then.
So you have to broaden your spectrum.
Mm-hmm. But if you're playing 1080p, or even 1440, I don't see a reason to get any of these 4000 series cards. Those are supposed to be 4K cards, and then when you're going out and you're getting a 4K, you're going to have to get a new processor. You're going to have to get a new power supply unit. You're going to have to get a new fucking TV.
Yeah, you're basically starting a whole new computer at that point.
Yeah. The TV makes such a big difference on your 4K, whether you get a piece of shit or not. The vast majority of the nice gaming monitors right now, they're 1440p IPS. That's where they are. That's where it is right now. HDR sucks on them. HDR sucks on all LCDs. Having now an OLED in front of me when turning HDR on,
tell.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's been a fucking fraud until you actually hit it on the TV that's designed for it. It's designed for the OLED. But it's one of those things where if you're at 1080p right now, all them games are still going to be, you're going to be able to run all that shit. If you're having trouble right now, then you're probably running like a 900 series card. Honestly, ray tracing's still a gimmick. I've played plenty of games that they do that on-screen specialized. I forgot what the hell it is, but there's like a fake ray tracing. Unreal Engine 5 has got fake ray tracing on it too. That they're not going to use NVIDIA's damn freaking, money grubbing power hog art ray tracing. But the DLSS is probably the best thing that NVIDIA's got going around right now. So that's their one key advantage over AMD. Or otherwise, I might have gotten an AMD card. But a 3080 is not really a 4K card until you turn that damn DLSS on, and then you're maxing out the damn monitor. It's great for that shit.
Do you think EVGA? You think maybe might be looking to see if like ATI and AMD will pick them up as a card maker?
They said specifically no.
And that's what I was just wondering, if this was like one of those, like, we're going to throw the ball down and see who picks it up. Because, I could see them being an argument for, like, we can do this better for AMD. But at the same time, it's like, do they need somebody to, contract it out to?
They say that they're out. I think it's just a matter of the margins. The cards aren't.
Oh, I'm
good.
Sure. Yeah.
On top of that, Nvidia would not. Yesterday, when Asus and whatever, they've been making those cards. They have them. They're ready to go. They're fucking inboxes, and they didn't know what to charge for them because they don't know until the actual public knows. When Jensen gets up there and says, "Well, this is what we're charging for these damn cards," you're like, "What the fuck?" I'm sure there's plenty of them. They're looking at their 4080 12 gigabytes here that they already knew that was supposed to be actually a 4070, and now that Jensen says he wants $900 to start with for those cards, and you're like, well, you just fucked our entire lineup. You just destroyed that shit. Never mind that there's going to be plenty of people up there. They know that they need a 4080. They're going to go up there and like, oh well, I don't need fucking 4 extra gigabytes or $300. It's like, no, it's an entire different card.
Yep.
It's on a different architecture and everything. They should be sued probably. But EVGA said specifically they're out because it would make so much sense for them to go over to AMD. They would go in, their name value would be huge.
I mean, yeah, that alone, it would be it would be worth it for AMD to pick them up. But at the same time, if there's not any money in it, I think it was you that was telling me on their power supplies, it's like the profit margin was so high on it. It's kind of like working in retail. It's like certain things, and I don't know how it was in groceries, but at Target, I remember like when the PlayStation 2 came out, and people were like, "Oh man, they're sold out." It's like, I bet they made a killing. And I'm like, I think we made like $9 per PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like one of those, like, you don't make money on the consoles, you make them on the fucking damn controllers and stupid shit that they sell, the stands, the
monster cables, man.
Yep, the monster cables, the shit like that. That's like I remember like people in Target like couldn't understand it. Like clothing actually had the soft line side made more money than the rest of the store, because they could literally take a shirt and cut it 90% off and still have a profit on it because it was so marked up. But in electronics, it was like CDs, you didn't make jack off those, or DVDs, and I mean games were the same way. I think you made like less than $10 per game when you sold it.
Yeah, I always heard it was like $2 or $3.
It's not
for like
much.
a $60, and so there's just there's nothing there as far as being a retail person to sell it, and it's one of the.
You just use it to bring them in to buy other shit.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where that's what's how the market works, and EVGA says it's not even worth being in, and I don't think that NVIDIA gives two flying fucks, honestly.
They probably don't, to be honest with you. They're probably like, we don't give a fuck.
I could see it coming in advance, is that why we using MSI, why we using NVIDIA to make all these extra damn cards, that we're selling them cards, and they're just putting big, stupid, goofy RGBs and coolers on it. Can't we just do that shit ourselves? And then that's the end of it. And then so there only will be Founders Editions. There's been more than one actual AMD that I bought as the AMD reference brand, but I've never bought an NVIDIA one. But that's what it's going to be. You could see it coming from a mile away. If NVIDIA tells them their minimum, which then they'll undercut with their Founders, and they'll tell them their maximum, so they can't even make some like stupid, glorious, really dumb card without getting in a bunch of trouble. But so EVGA said, "Fuck it, we're out," and So, there's tons of people. I seen somebody online he had the big brain plan of he already bought a 3080, but he bought it right now, only a couple weeks before the 4090 came out, because he was just going to use the upgrade program to make sure he got one. Some guys did that for the 30,000 series too. They get their 3080, but well, you're fucked now, bro. There ain't no upgrade.
Yeah. You played yourself, son.
You've reached end game. We're at 40 minutes, so let's take a break and then we'll come back and do the Netflix stuff as a separate video. I think that's probably a good idea.
Probably so.